What if I told you that hidden deep in the mountains of Peru are structures so perfectly carved, so impossibly precise, that even with all our modern technology, we would struggle to recreate them? Now imagine this, the very civilization credited with building these wonders openly admitted they didn't build them at all, and here's where it gets even stranger. Because according to cutting-edge analysis by Google's most advanced AI, the techniques behind these stones suggest a form of technology far beyond what history tells us existed thousands of years ago. This isn't just another archaeological mystery. This is a glimpse into a lost chapter of human history, one where a high-tech civilization may have existed only to vanish so completely they became nothing more than legend. Stay with me, because by the end of this video you might start questioning everything you thought you knew about our past. Picture this. You're standing in front of a wall in Peru, staring at stones so massive they weigh as much as 60 cars, yet they're fitted together like the pieces of a perfect 3D puzzle. No cement, no mortar, just giant, irregular blocks, locked so tightly that you couldn't slide a razor blade between them. At Sacsayhuamán, overlooking the ancient city of Cusco, limestone blocks weighing over 120 tons sit perfectly in place, towering above you. But here's where it gets truly baffling. These walls have stood for centuries in one of the most earthquake-prone regions on Earth. When massive quakes hit, the colonial buildings right beside them collapse into rubble. Yet the ancient walls, they flex, they sway, and then they snap right back into perfect alignment, as if they were engineered to dance with the earth itself. Travel higher into the Andes, and you reach Ollantaytambo, a fortress shrouded in mystery. Here, 6 enormous pink granite monoliths stand in formation, each weighing over 50 tons. Geologists trace this granite to a quarry more than 4 miles away, a journey that would have meant dragging these stones down one mountain, across a roaring river, and then hauling them back up another. And remember, there's no evidence of wheels, no cranes, no pack animals strong enough to handle this kind of weight. But here's the part that truly bends the mind. Moving the stones was only half the challenge. The real question is, how did they shape them with such impossible precision? Now here's where the mystery deepens. These walls aren't just made of limestone, many are carved from andesite and diorite. On the Mohs scale of hardness, these rocks score a 7 or 8. To put that in perspective, diamond is a 10, and the tools the Inca supposedly used. Bronze and copper chisels, which rank only a 3 or 4. That's like trying to carve through granite with a butter knife, not just unlikely, but physically impossible. Yet somehow, the stones we see today display flawless right angles, sweeping, curves and joints so precise they look machine-cut. Take Cusco's famous 12-angled stone. Its edges interlock with surrounding blocks like pieces of a 3D puzzle. It's so perfect, it almost looks as though the rock had been softened like clay, molded into place and then hardened again. But no known natural process can achieve this without extreme industrial-level heat, far beyond the capability of any fire in the ancient world. Here's the reality check. Even with modern diamond-tipped saws, advanced lasers, and millions of dollars in equipment, replicating this kind of stonework today would be an engineering nightmare. So if the Inca didn't have the tools or the technology, what were they really working with? The answer will leave you questioning everything. When Spanish conquistadors first arrived in the 1500s, they were stunned by what they saw. Towering walls of stone, impossibly engineered, so precise they looked almost supernatural. Naturally, they asked the Inca rulers the obvious question: how did your people build these? The Incas' response was nothing short of earth-shattering. We didn't. According to their own account, these massive foundations weren't the work of the Inca at all. They said the walls were left behind by the Viracocha, a mysterious people who came long before them. The Inca, brilliant builders in their own right, admitted they simply found these colossal stone foundations and built their own cities on top. And here's the fascinating part. You can still see this layering with your own eyes today. The lower sections of many sites are made from massive, perfectly interlocking megalithic blocks, stones so huge and precise they defy explanation. Sitting on top of them, rougher Inca stonework, much smaller, held together with clay mortar. It's almost like someone built the indestructible foundation of a skyscraper. And centuries later, someone else came along and stacked a log cabin on top of it. And this is where the history books fall silent. Because if the Inca didn't build the megalithic foundations, then who did? There are no written records, no blueprints, no names. Whoever this phantom civilization was, they left behind some of the most advanced stonework on Earth, and then vanished without a trace. Here's where mainstream archaeology hits a wall. You can't carbon date stone, which means there's no precise way to tell when these megaliths were built. Tests on organic materials found around the sites scatter wildly. Some results point to the Inca era, but others stretch back thousands of years earlier, hinting at a civilization long before them. But local legends tell a story science often ignores. Ancient tales speak of beings who could literally move mountains using the power of sound, or mysterious plant liquids that could soften stone until it became pliable like clay. At first glance, it sounds like pure mythology. But think about it. If you tried explaining a helicopter to someone from medieval times, how would they describe it? Probably as a magical flying dragon of metal and fire. In other words, myths may simply be ancient attempts to describe advanced technology in the only language they had. And then there's the physical evidence. At Sacsayhuamán, researchers have found bizarre scoop-like marks etched into giant blocks of stone. These smooth, uniform gouges look nothing like the rough strikes of a hammer and chisel. Instead, they resemble the marks of industrial tools, as if some massive machine had scooped out chunks of rock, weighing hundreds of pounds at a time. When you connect the scattered dating, the myths of advanced abilities, and the machine-like scars left in solid stone, all the evidence begins pointing in one direction: a lost civilization armed with scientific knowledge so advanced, we are only now beginning to rediscover it. For centuries, this mystery seemed unsolvable. But then came a technological revolution. Satellite imaging, LIDAR mapping, and ground-penetrating radar began uncovering hidden platforms, buried walls, and vast terrace systems lost for millennia. The scale turned out to be 10 times larger than anyone had imagined, but the sheer volume of data overwhelmed human researchers. That's when Google's AI stepped in. Scientists fed it enormous data sets, LIDAR scans, geological surveys, astronomical alignments, and high-resolution images from megalithic sites across the Andes. The AI's task wasn't to solve the mystery directly, but to detect patterns we could never see. And what it found was staggering. Across hundreds of miles of mountains, sites shared identical architectural fingerprints, the same complex angles, the same interlocking polygons, the same precise astronomical alignments. It was as if one unified blueprint had been used everywhere. The AI concluded with 99% certainty that these weren't random works of separate cultures. They were the product of a single advanced civilization following standardized engineering. Templates. Even more shocking, the AI identified tool marks matching high-frequency vibrational technology, exactly like the legends of shaping stone with sound. It also detected thin, glassy layers on stone surfaces, proof of sudden, intense bursts of heat no ancient fire could produce. The verdict was clear. These weren't primitive builders at all. Whoever they were, they had technology far beyond what we thought possible. They were a lost high-tech civilization, but one massive question remains: where did they go? Picture this: a civilization thriving high in the Andes thousands of years ago, masters of stone armed with scientific knowledge that in some ways may have rivaled or even surpassed our own. Their fingerprints still linger in the mountains, and only now with the help of AI can we finally begin to read them. So why did they vanish so completely, that they became nothing more than myth? Stone endures. Walls and monuments can survive for millennia, but people, records, and entire ways of life, they are fragile, and history shows us how quickly they can be erased. Many scientists point to a cataclysm around 12,000 years ago, the event known as the Younger Dryas. Evidence suggests a comet slammed into the North American ice sheet, unleashing a chain reaction of chaos across the planet. Earthquakes shook continents, volcanoes erupted, and towering walls of water, floods miles high, swept across the land. In South America, the geological scars of this disaster are everywhere. Evidence of ancient mega-flooding is overwhelming. A cataclysm of that scale wouldn't just damage cities, it would scour them from existence. Entire civilizations could be wiped clean overnight, leaving behind only the strongest stonework to tell their story. Imagine it. One day, thriving cities filled with knowledge and mastery. The next, silence. Scattered survivors clinging to life, their knowledge shattered, their technology lost in a single blow. Complex skills in engineering and stonework, refined over generations, erased in the blink of an eye. All that remained were the walls, silent, indestructible, waiting. Centuries later, new cultures like the Inca rise. They stumble upon these ruins, foundations so perfect, so powerful, that they assume they must have been built by gods. They build their homes atop these ancient bones, never knowing they were living on the last remnants of a brilliant, forgotten world. Here's the sobering truth. Our modern civilization, satellites, computers, sprawling global networks, feels permanent, almost invincible. But in reality, it's fragile. A single massive solar flare could wipe our digital world clean in an instant. Our glass towers and steel cities aren't built to endure 10,000 years of abandonment. So imagine this, 12,000 years after a global disaster, what would be left of us? Most of our world would crumble into dust, but a handful of over-engineered monuments might survive. Maybe the granite faces of Mount Rushmore, maybe the concrete heart of the Hoover Dam. Now picture scattered survivors, centuries later, stumbling across these ruins with no memory of who built them or how. They'd see massive structures holding back lakes, or carved with impossible precision, built by a people they couldn't imagine. And what would they call us? Gods? Giants? A lost civilization, whispered about in myth? That's exactly what we're seeing in Peru today. The stones of Peru have finally spoken, and through the lens of artificial intelligence, their secret is clear. A lost high-tech civilization once thrived in the Andes. They engineered monuments to stand against eternity, and in that, they succeeded. But when global catastrophe struck, they were erased so completely that they slipped into legend. This is more than an archaeological mystery. It's a mirror, reflecting our own fragility. A reminder that the knowledge and achievements we take for granted could vanish in a single planetary disaster, leaving only fragments for the distant future to puzzle over. And it raises a chilling question. If a civilization this advanced could disappear without a trace, what other truths are still buried beneath our feet? What other so-called myths might actually be echoes of forgotten science? The ancient builders left us more than stone puzzles. They left us a warning. No matter how advanced, every civilization is mortal. What survives are the mysteries, waiting to be decoded by those who come after. So I'll leave you with this. Could we be living in the shadow of a brilliant, forgotten past? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're ready for more discoveries that challenge everything we thought we knew about human history, don't forget to subscribe. To Forgotten Depths. The past still has secrets, and we've only just begun to uncover them.